reminder, this is the last of our session of FSC training for the year. So thank you for joining all of them. Following today's training, when I send the follow-up email with the recording and give you a base camp where that's housed, I will be sending out an evaluation that you can complete. That evaluation will help us to both see how this year went and how you felt about it, and also ask for some ideas of things that you would like to make sure you're or like to see happen for next year's FSC training. So we appreciate anybody that can fill that out. That would be very helpful. Today for our training, as you know, we've been talking about resources that are available to everyone in Kansas, to every program in Kansas. However, not everybody qualifies for these programs. So the people here today, we have two programs that are here, two people from DCF, and then one person here from Kansas Children's Service League, or KCSL. Heidi Widmer and Erica Hunter are here from DCF, and Michelle Reichart is here from Kansas Children's Service League. We had scheduled, Adrienne Ralston was scheduled to come, but unfortunately she wasn't able to make it today. And then at the end, Tammy Walline is going to talk a little bit about family surveys. So I would like you to welcome everybody. At the end of everybody's presentation, if you have questions, feel free to put that in the chat, or in the chat would be the most helpful. And if there is an opportunity or there's a follow-up question, then you might be able to unmute to ask your question. Okay, Heidi, I think you're ready.
We shall see. Good morning, everybody. I am familiar with Teams, so give me a moment with Zoom. I need to switch the. Letting me. My options are not coming to share my screens again. Sorry. Thank you for being patient. I'm gonna try it this way. Hopefully we're good. Are we good, Jenny? Thank you. Like Jenny said, sorry, everyone. My name is Heidi Widmer. I am the Community Collaboration Assistant Director for the Department in Children and Families. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 5 different programs that we offer that do have income requirements, but just to give you a little bit more knowledge about them. The Department for Children and Families is separated into 6 regions with 36 offices located throughout the state. We have the big Northwest, Southwest, our 2 big metropolitan areas, Kansas City and Wichita, and then the Northeast and Southeast. As you can see on here, they have little asterisks for each office that is in the service centers. So every asterisk on this map is a service center in that area. Economic and Employment Services supports and provide a variety of services that may help include cash assistance, food assistance, temporary, childcare assistance, energy assistance, and employment services. Some of you might know the food assistance is better known as SNAP. Temporary assistance for needy families is our cash assistance program, and our energy assistance program is called LEAP, and it just ended this year. Sorry. The first program we're going to talk about is our food assistance program, better known as SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. A lot of people ask, what is the food assistance program? It is federally funded through the USDA nutrition. It's largely a domestic food program. Last year, we spent over $39 million each month in grocery stores across Kansas. It helps people with little to no income. They can even buy vegetable plants and seeds at local grocery stores, A good program to know about during the spring and summer months when farmers markets are open. It's a double up program. So for every dollar of food assistance, they get an additional dollar. So for $1, they receive $2 at the local farmers markets. And there they can buy any type of fruits, vegetables, and even the plants. So, who is eligible for this program? They must meet monthly gross and net limits, and it's 130% of the federal poverty level. Deductions to income are allowed. Work requirements for some individuals that do receive assistance, which would be our able-bodied persons, the age of 18 through 49 without children, who work or attend approved training programs 30 hours a week, as well as people over the age of 60 that meet the income guidelines. A big question we always get asked is how many resources and what do we count as resources for our food assistance program? For our food assistance program, a household can have up to $2,750 in resources. That includes cash on hand, checking, and savings. If someone in the house is age 60 or older, so maybe grandma or grandpa, or it could even be a family friend is in the home and they eat together and is over the age of 60, those resources are moved up to $4,250. It's another big question we get. Does a person have to be a U.S. citizen to be eligible for food assistance? U.S. citizens and certain legal non-citizens are eligible for food assistance benefits, with, of course, eligibility requirements being met. If a person in the home, say an example is maybe mom is undocumented and she has 2 U.S. citizen children, it would be processed and income based on a household of 3. They would count mom's income if she had income, and if not, they would receive benefits for just a household of 2 for the 2 U.S. citizens. So mom wouldn't get benefits for herself, but she would get benefits for her 2 children. How do household purchases food benefits? I know probably when I was younger, just a few decades ago, there was little books that were mailed out for each family. It's kind of like Monopoly money, and you could really notice who was on food assistance. So with good technology, fast forward to 2024, this has been out for several years, but they get an EBT card, electronic benefits card, looks just like the one on the screen, and their monthly benefits are issued. For food assistance, it's based on your last name, on what day they receive the benefits, and they can use that at any local grocery store that has and accepts EBT. As well as during the pandemic, we got Amazon added and Walmart added for online ordering, which actually helps a lot for people that are in food deserts or lack transportation to get to those stores. Another program a lot of people are not familiar with are our USDA commodity programs. We have 2 different programs. The first one is the Emergency Food Assistance Program, is better known as TFAP. TFAP is for any individuals across the state. And our Commodity Supplemental Food Program, better known as DSFP, is our senior boxes. So for seniors, each program is monthly, and families can pick up a box of the Emergency Food Assistance Program monthly. I do have a link at the end of the presentation for you to be able to click and see your local areas that do provide these programs. A couple other programs that commodities do, they do the Soup Kitchen Food Bank, Nutrition Service Incentive Programs, and Charitable Institution Commodity Programs. These are just local programs that maybe serve a weekly dinner. A lot of them at soup kitchens offer daily meals, or they'll offer once or twice a week for a warm hot meal in the evenings. Once again, that link is the information on location of that is at the end of the slides. Temporary assistance for needy families, better known as our cash assistance program. So who qualifies for cash assistance? Families with really little to no income. Resources included in this are the same thing as $2,750 that they can have for resources. Once again, that includes cash on hand, savings, and checking accounts. Typically, our families that are applying for food assistance, they have no resources, and that is why they're there. To qualify for cash assistance, a woman can be pregnant or anybody, they must have children in the home under the age of 18. And that is covered through the child's 19th birthday. In Kansas, we do have a hard limit of 24-month lifetime limit. Is 2 short years, with a possibility of some programs allowing hardship extensions. Some examples of the extension would be if the client is pending Social Security, and we can see that in our system, and they're just waiting for that process. As you know, it's really fast. So we try to hold on as long as possible, and they would be approved through that 36-month as long as they're still waiting. However, after that 36-month, their cash assistance would end, even if they were still waiting for that Social Security to be approved. Another hardship exemption could be an example of someone is in maybe a community college program or a training program, and that program ends on month 26. So instead of cutting them off at month 24, so they don't have that support service and cash assistance, they would extend that through month 26, allow them to complete that programming, and then as long as they're working for work placement or something, that extension could be approved up to that 36-month. We also have, I always say, if you are working with a client that's has TANF and is come into that lifetime limit, if they're working with their career navigator, they just need to talk to them about what their plan is and how to move forward, and they could submit a hardship request through our hardship committee. The same question that always comes up. Do you have to be an eligible citizen to receive cash assistance? To receive the cash assistance, you must be a citizen to get the benefits issued. However, just like that example earlier, if you do have a parent that is non-documented, they could receive it for their U.S. children. That is a big misconception. People think that if they have U.S. children or U.S. citizen children, and then they're not a citizen themselves, they believe that they cannot receive benefits. That is not true. They can receive benefits on behalf of their kid. The other misconception is that the non-documented parent receives benefits for themselves. They do not receive benefits for themselves. They receive benefits on behalf of their children. And that is across the board for all of our programs. Once again, just like food assistance, cash assistance is put on their electronic benefits card. Cash assistance is loaded at the first of every month. So if they have rent to pay, utilities to pay, they can withdraw that cash off at any local ATM. They can get cash back at Walmart, grocery stores. It's really treated just like a debit card. TANF services, there's different TANF services statewide. We have in and after school youth programs. We work with different domestic violence or assault, sexual assault centers, youth and family stability programs, substance use disorders, as well as home visitation. There is a link here at the bottom of this. So when you do receive the PowerPoint, you can click and see where services are available. Childcare assistance. Who is eligible for childcare? A person in need of childcare, right? A child under the age of 13 or for the age of 13 to 18, for someone that can't provide care for themselves. They may have a disability. All the client would simply need to do is get a doctor's statement saying that they cannot care for themselves and they need childcare. Then attach that with your application, make sure you meet the income standards. On our childcare program, resource limit is $10,000. So a lot of people that are unaware that might qualify for childcare assistance are unaware that those resources are so high. Once again, the resources include cash on hand, checking and savings. The parents do choose the child care providers. DCF does not recommend or place any child in child care programs. So if you had a child that you were working with between 13 and 18 that needed that specialty child care center, the parent would need to make sure that that child care center is qualified for handling the child's needs. There is also for that an enhanced rate for childcare with the children with disabilities, and that's from age 0 to 18. If a child does have a disability, there is an enhanced rate for that child. Once again, childcare benefits are issued on the wonderful EBT card. They are issued at the first of every month, so they can pay their child care center, whether that child care center accepts payment weekly or monthly. That family does have those benefits on their card at the beginning of every month. Low income energy assistance program. This program just ended last month at the end of March. It assists people with their heating utility. The person responsible for paying that, now that can go to a landlord or it can be also sent to a local vendor. If they use propane, we would send it to the propane vendor. For example, we would send Kansas Gas or Evergy the check directly. The clients don't receive the payment for that. The gross income for that program, they are 150% of the federal poverty level, so it's a little bit higher than food assistance. And they must, this actually got removed this season just at the end of it, demonstrate a recent history of payment towards their heating bill. That did get taken out. So in previous years, they had to have at least made a payment of $80 in the past 3 months. They did take that out this year. So no more required payment to receive that. Another misconception on that, just to let you guys know, is if somebody in public housing that the heating is included in their rent, but they're responsible just for the electric bill, they would not qualify for this program because it is a federally funded heating program and their heat would be the gas that is included in the rent. Those are some exception to the rules, but we do have a lot of clients that are all electric and that do qualify to assist with that electric bill. Employment services. I really think employment services is a great resource that a lot of people just don't tap into. We have 3 different programs currently in employment services. The first one you're probably very familiar with. It's our TANF, our cash assistance work program. The person that must participate is whoever's receiving that TANF benefit. So mom or dad, an example of that would not be is if 2 non-documented parents, they would not participate in work programs because the end goal for work programs is employment. And we couldn't support employment if they're not documented. The second program is our goals program. It is a voluntary program and the only voluntary program under employment services. And that is for families that are receiving food assistance and they have a child in the home or the mom is pregnant under the age of 18. Our third program is our SNAP and Employment Training Program. It is a mandatory program for our able-bodied working adults without dependents. So that would be adults between the age of 18 and 49 that are not deemed disabled. They would be required to participate in work program requirements. Employment services, they do an initial evaluation with the client to see what type of support the client has. They review employment support services, what can they support them with? And if there's any area local resources that we could refer them to, we'll definitely refer the client to. Some of the support services that you can get with TANF employment and goals as well as ENT is transportation allowance, childcare assistance while working for or while looking for employment. That is different from our childcare program. Our normal childcare program, you do not get childcare when you're looking for employment. However, if you volunteer with goals or if you are in our TANF program, they can issue childcare assistance for looking for employment. Education and job skills training, we can pay for small certificate programs, CNA, CMA, anything under a 2-year program we could support. Personal care items, big thing, one-time emergency payments. Those are going to be your larger payments, right? It might be a rental cost that we can pay. It might be a utility cost that we pay. Any large payment like that is just a one-time payment. And the caveat to that is you have to have a plan for the next month. We can't pay the month of April rent if there's not a plan in place for the May rent. Whether you have your mom writes a letter and says she's going to pay your rent the next month, or you just started that job and we know that you're going to have that paycheck to pay it. So to prevent homelessness, we would assist with that payment. Special services, I always say if there's a problem that you need help with, talk to your career navigator and see if that's something that they could assist with. Anything that's tied to employment and employment services, they can support. The other good thing is transitional services offered in our cash assistance program, as well as just our ENT, our 2 mandatory programs. That transitional services last 12 months after their cash assistance or ENT case closes. So example, I get a job, my cash assistance closed in April. I'm going to work next month and I get a flat tire. I'm still not stable. I don't have enough money yet to cover that. So the client could reach out to their career navigator and that career navigator could assist with tires, and anything else like that. They could assist with tags that might come up, insurance that might come up over that next 12 months, as well as assisting with like transportation allowance throughout that time. How to apply for these services. Our clients, if they would like to request an application being mailed to them, they can call that 888 number and they can mail them an application. Or we do have online applications, which I would highly recommend to do online applications. The difference between our online application and a paper application is once the client completes that application in our self-service portal, it's registered. If they turn in a paper application, that is then registered by our HSAs. So just a small delay in time and the convenience aspect of it. Here are all the wonderful resources that I shared on the Economic and Employment Services link that would show you maps of local commodities, areas, or soup kitchens. Program services just breaks down what each program offers through DCF. Applying for services, you can request a paper application, print it off, or do the online app. Office location map is just the map I showed at the beginning. And then medical assistance. The state does offer medical assistance that is processed through a contractor. Every local DCF office does have applications and they could assist with those, but we just don't collect those. They're mailed off or faxed in. Does anybody have any questions? I don't know if we want to hold questions till the end. I will hand it back to Jenny.
There are a couple questions in the chat.
Oh.
The first one is, does a child who has an IFSP get the enhanced rate for childcare?
Yes, so in order to get that enhanced rate, they would just need documentation, right, from a doctor's office. whoever's treating that child for that, yeah, or they can bring that paperwork, and then they would have to find an approved childcare provider that specializes in that care. And it could be they have training provided, or they've just shown a pattern where they could care for those special needs.
Does it have to be a doctor, or could it be the IFSP itself with the early intervention program and provider signing off on that?
It would just need to state that they couldn't, if they're over, oh, this is for a child under 13. Yeah.
Under 3, yeah.
Oh, under the age of 3. Yes, that would work. Just saying that they had special needs. Yes.
Another question, if a working mother is undocumented and has children that are citizens, is she able to receive childcare assistance?
Yes, yes, yes. All of our programs are like that. As long as she meets the income guideline, like an example would be household of 3. Mom is undocumented. She has 2 children. They're going to run the income on a household of 3, but she would receive the benefits for both children.
Okay, do you know off the top of your head what the income eligibility for childcare assistance is?
I'm going to fail that test. I'm sorry. I don't know it. I do know it is a lot higher. During COVID, they raised that federal guideline. So a lot of people qualify that don't necessarily realize it, but it is on that link at the end of the slideshow.
Okay, that was my next question, is where can you find that information?
Yes, it's on that.
And does 2750 in resources for SNAP include house and car?
Sorry, I actually didn't address that. House and 1 car is exempt from resources. The home you live in and the car that you drive is exempt from resources, so no.
What are the education employment requirements for childcare assistance program?
The education requirements.
Education and employment requirements, yes.
For childcare assistance, to receive childcare assistance, believe that they have to be enrolled in school full-time or working 20 hours a week. Those are all the guidelines are going to be on that first link on the end of the program, the slideshow.
Are there any exceptions to those benefits that have age requirements for teen mothers?
You have to be either emancipated if you're under the age of 18 to receive cash assistance. And then at 18, the exception, 18 and 19, we consider teen parents, and they're exempt from participation in work programs requirements as long as they're working towards a high school diploma or GED.
With the child care assistance program, do you have to be eligible for TANF in order to receive child care assistance while searching for employment?
No. Yes, sorry. I just pulled up the chat and rereading that. If you're looking for work, the only way to get childcare assistance is to have an open TANF case or a goals case, and then they can issue you childcare assistance. But through a traditional childcare assistance, you would be denied just looking for work.
Does a person have to just fill out one application, or are there separate applications for each program?
The only time a person has to fill out multiple application is our seasonal LEAP application. You can fill out cash assistance, food assistance, and childcare assistance in one application. A LEAP application, unfortunately, is a separate application, and that's the only program that is a separate application.
Another child care assistance question. How do families pay their child care provider if they are an out of home family member using an EBT card? And are they able to withdraw cash to pay the family member?
Okay, so the way that works is the family member that's a provider is they send in all their information as they do the background, and they would have it directly deposited. They have a certain code, like a 5-digit code. It typically starts with B or C, and then 5 numbers. At the beginning of the month, when that money is loaded onto their child care card, they just call the back of their card and walk through that process. It's a automated system. Pay your provider 1, put in their code number, and then that money is automatically transferred. But the client cannot withdraw child care benefits from their EBT card.
Does the extra assistance for childcare include kids who are in foster care?
The extra assistance, like the enhanced rate. Sorry.
That's okay.
Um, if a child in foster care, absolutely 100% would be covered in the child care assistance. If a kid comes into custody and needs child care, that's a form that their social worker that they're working with through that agency. If the child in foster care has a need for a higher enhanced rate, it's kind of the same thing. They would just provide the paperwork that child has special needs, and they could get that enhanced rate if that is the question.
Yeah, I think she confirmed yes, that was the question.
Okay.
Once a family applies, is there a time frame afterwards to get DCF all the required documentation requested? And if they do not qualify, is there an explanation as to why they did not qualify?
Yeah, so the time frame is 10 days. It is not a big time frame that they request. So if they're missing a paycheck stub or some type of qualifying document, the agency will mail out a notice. If that client has gone in and they're deemed for an email versus a notice, they would send an email. We have the SSP portal that if they have an online account, they can follow that, and then they can automatically upload any documents that are needed there. If they do not qualify, is there an yes, if they don't qualify for an benefits, if they're over income, or if there's another, if they're not eligible, there's an explanation on those notices.
Are there any options for childcare assistance for a parent on permanent disability?
No, unfortunately not.
And I think this is the last question for now. Can a family receive the enhanced childcare assistance if they are over income, but their child is on an IFSP or an IEP?
No, they would have to qualify for the program to receive that enhanced rate. So to qualify for the program, they would have to be under the income guidelines. But child care assistance guidelines are pretty high, so I would definitely double check on that.
Thank you, Heidi. If you wouldn't mind maybe putting your email in the chat, and then if people have additional questions, once they leave here, they can reach directly out to you, or if you have another way that you would prefer that to happen, you can
Nope.
put that as well.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
And just as a reminder, all the presenters are sending me their information as well as any flyers, and those will be housed in Basecamp following our session today. Thank you for the questions. Okay, I think Michelle with Kansas Children's Service League is up next.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Michelle Reichert. I am the supervisor for the 1-800-Children program with Kansas Children's Service League. And I'll just do kind of a brief overview of 1-800-Children and then talk a little bit about some of KCSL's other programs. So 1-800-Children, hopefully many of you are at least a little familiar. We are a judgment-free support for parents, caregivers, professionals, really anybody who can reach us via phone or via internet. This is our logo. We love our logo. It really represents the work that all of us do. So at the center of the logo is a heart. You know, the child is the heart of our work, of your work, and it really unites all of us. And then the colors around the heart represent the different layers of support around the child and family. So other family members, neighbors, school personnel, community members, different organizations, all of that. So we're a part of the big statewide network, and we want to make sure that we're helping families connect with whatever resource can best benefit them to help meet their needs. So there are 4 ways to reach the 1-800-CHILDREN program. The first one is through our call line. Some of you may remember when we had the parent helpline. KCSL oversaw the parent helpline for, since the early 1990s. And then in 2020, they rebranded the program to 1-800-CHILDREN. So we do use both phone numbers still. So we answer this phone line 24/7. So again, I'm the supervisor, and then we have 4 other 1-800-CHILDREN staff, and we all rotate answering the phone during business hours, and then we take turns being on call after hours. So just a little note about the 1-800-CHILDREN phone number. The word children is 8 letters instead of 7. So when you're dialing 1-800-CHILDREN, just ignore the N on the end, and you'll get right to us. And then the number below is the old parent helpline number that, again, will still roll over to us. And I'll say a little bit more about the call line in a minute. We also are able to be reached by email or text message. So this is a KCSL email address. We only respond to this during business hours, but everyone who reaches out to us through this email address, they receive an automatic reply with a crisis number line, with the DCF report line, with our phone number if they want to call us right away for help. So even though we may not answer them until the next day, they're going to get at least some information immediately. And then we have our resource database at 1-800-CHILDRENKS.org, and I will walk through that with you in a minute. And then we also have a mobile app version of the website. So 1-800-CHILDREN is no cost to anyone. It's available to anyone. You know, for someone to call or email us or use our website, it's free to them, you know, so there's no eligibility requirements for anybody to utilize our services. The only time eligibility comes in is on our resource database. Those programs on there definitely have some of their own requirements, but we're always here for anyone. So going back to the phone calls, we get over 1,000 phone calls a year from all across Kansas, and we even get a handful from other states, which is always interesting. So when someone calls us, we primarily want them to know that we're on their side. We're there to empathize with them, help with whatever they need. You know, we're not a crisis line. We're not a medical line. We're not a legal line, so we are limited. But, you know, we are the resource people, so we do our best to make connections. And one thing that I think is really kind of special about our call line is someone can call us and talk really for as long as they need. Now, if it's going on and on and on, we might kind of redirect to like the needs and how we can help them. But there's not a lot of places anymore where you can just call, share your concerns, and have someone listen, you know? So I think that's really special about what we do. We may offer some advice, some information. For example, I had a call about a month ago from a dad who was concerned about his toddler's behaviors. So we talked through different parenting techniques that may help, things like that. And then, like I said, we do a lot of resource connecting to all kinds of things, food assistance, legal questions, custody issues, mental health services, early childhood supports, Head Start, you know, all kinds of things. Whatever the family is needing, we try to make those connections. And then we always offer a follow-up call. So not everyone takes us up on this, but if they want, we can call them back either, you know, the next day or maybe within the week, kind of depending on the acuity of the situation and just check in, see how it's going, see if there's anything else we can help with, things like that. And one other thing I want to mention about the call line is we do respect anonymity. We don't ask for people's phone numbers, for their names. The only time we need that information is if they want us to call them back. Some people will tell us their name right away, which is wonderful. But we understand that not everyone wants us to know exactly who they are, exactly where they live, just because they may not understand that we're not DCF or, different reasons. But we do respect anonymity. We do always, though, ask for zip code because zip code helps us to input their general location in our resource database to pull up their local resources. So we may also ask for like the age of the child, things like that to look at different program eligibility. So these are a few bright spots from, I would say, the last few months of our call line. So the first one was a mom who had been terminated from her job, and she had no means of transportation and was really lacking food for her family. So our phone counselor was able to connect her with emergency food services, and they were actually able to deliver that food to her home, which is really neat. The next one is a mom who I actually spoke with a few months ago. She called at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night and was laying in bed with her 7-year-old daughter who was sleeping and was just really stressed out about her daughter's separation anxiety. The family had gone through a lot of changes in the last couple of years, different relationship issues like divorce, remarriage. There was stress in the home about the separation anxiety. So we talked through a lot of things. I did a lot of listening, and the mom was open to getting mental health services for her daughter. And when I called her back a few days later, she had been able to make an appointment with a therapist in their neighborhood. So that was great that that mom was able to make that connection. And then the last one here kind of shows how we're outside the box sometimes. So we try to help anybody that calls us, even though children and families are our focus. This one was an 85-year-old woman who needed help with weatherization for her home. And our phone counselor who worked with her ended up speaking with her 2 or 3 times. And our phone counselor also reached out directly to the weatherization program, confirmed her eligibility, things like that. So again, we really try to help everyone. I just want to mention that we also do the ages and stages questionnaire over our call line. I know there's a lot of places that do the ASQs, but we're one of them. So if parents are ever concerned about their children's development or have questions, we're happy to help. Okay, now shifting over to our online resource database. So our address, our email, our web address is 1-800-CHILDREN-KS.org. And this is a website that was built and is maintained by findhelp.org. You may be familiar with Find Help. They're a national resource, kind of like United Way 211. And they built our website for us for Kansas, and they also maintain it for us. So at least every 6 months, they go in and they update any programs, they make sure that all the information is accurate, helping us keep up with all of that, which is amazing because there are hundreds of resources and we're adding more all the time. So they are a really good support for us. So I'm going to walk through a little bit of how to utilize our website. Like I said, hopefully a lot of you are familiar, but just kind of a refresher for you. So this is the homepage. Excuse me. This is what you see when you visit 1-800-CHILDREN-KS.org. You are immediately prompted to put in a zip code. So this is either your zip code or the zip code of the family that you're working with. And a couple other things on this homepage. Yeah, as you can see at the bottom, our phone number is listed, so anyone can reach out to us anytime. And then those colorful buttons on the bottom, if someone has their phone or their tablet or their laptop enabled, their phone will pop up when they click that button, and they can just hit, dial, and it'll call us. Same with the email and the text message buttons. So that's other ways people can reach out to us directly. And then on the bottom left, it might be kind of small for you, but there's a little select language option. So the website utilizes Google's translation services. So there are over 200 languages available. So this whole website will translate into all of those languages. Unfortunately, we do know there's a few languages missing, like Marshallese is not in there. I know that that's a heavily utilized language in Southeast Kansas. I was recently notified that Dari is not in there. That was another language brought to our attention lately. So I'm going to make a request to Google to add those, but me versus Google, I don't know how that's going to go. But anyway, we definitely want to be as inclusive as possible. So this is the next page. So once someone enters their zip code, and they hit enter, it will bring them to this page. So this particular example is for El Dorado. And there's different ways to search for resources. So on the top left of the screen, you can type in a keyword like food assistance, childcare, vaccinations, counseling, custody, whatever you're looking for, you can type it in. Or if you know the specific program name, type that in there and then hit the little search button and your list of results will pop up. There's also these icons across the top of the screen. So different categories like food, housing, parenting, and so on. And here on the screen, we can see under the health category, there's different options like insurance, medical supplies, mental health, substance abuse, things like that. So a lot of different ways to search for resources. And then this is what some of those resources look like. And I'll show you a little bit more about that. But basically, when you hit search, you're going to get a list of different resources, kind of, one after the next. And I'll go a little bit more in depth about that. But before that, I do want to share that there are filters. There are a lot of different filters you can use to specify the different information you're looking for. So a couple of examples for personal filters might be the age of the child or individual you're looking for resources for, whether they're involved in the armed forces. There's a lot of resources for veterans and active military families. If it's a single parent household, things like that, and so on, like special needs, all kinds of things. And then there's program filters. So you can filter it by, is the program open right now when I'm searching? Are they free? Are they reduced cost? And just a little note about that, every program listed in our database is either free or reduced cost. So it's either no cost at all, or they have different income eligibility with like a sliding fee or, things like that. So we really try to make all of these as accessible as possible. So this is a program card example for Child Care Aware. And so when you're looking at a particular program card, there's a lot of information you're able to see. So you can see who they serve, kind of on the top there under serving. You can see their contact information, what area they serve. Like this one says Child Care Aware serves the whole state. Some of them will say we serve your zip code or we serve your town. It has when they're open, whether they're open on the spot, what their hours are. And then kind of below that, under more information, it has information about eligibility, what services they provide, what languages they operate in, and any relevant information. So organizations can customize what they put on here. So it'll look a little bit different for every program, but that's kind of the beauty of it. Programs can give the information that they know is relevant to them. And then a few other things I want to show you. Here, kind of in the middle of the page, there's those little buttons. So the star, it says save. Anybody can create a free account with our website. It's just a simple, email and password. And what that lets you do is you can save resources, so you're not having to look them up over and over again. So you can save it. It'll prompt you to add it to a folder. So you can make a folder for food resources, or you can make a folder for Sedgwick County resources, or however you want to organize it. And then you can edit that list. You can email that list to someone. It's a really neat feature. The little share one, we use this every day with people that call us. You can share a resource directly to someone's email address or phone through their phone number. And, when I used to answer the parent helpline, I always had to ask, do you have a pen and paper available? And usually they did not have a pen and paper available. So it was really hard to give information. But now it's so easy with the technology. You can also make notes on if you reach out to them, what they told you, things like that. And then the little suggest button. So if you notice that some information is no longer accurate or there's information that's missing, that would be helpful. Hit suggest and type in what you recommend. That will go to find help. They will review it and they will make updates. So just a couple other things about accessibility. Like I said, there's a couple different ways to change the language of the website. And then the whole website is readable by screen reader, which is great. And then the color contrast and the fonts, all of that is meant to be easy to see. So they took a lot of consideration for accessibility when they built all of this. So one thing that we ask everyone's help with is making sure that we have as many resources available on the database. So if you're on there and you notice that there's a really important program that you use all the time that's not there, we want to know about it. An organization can add their own organization, or we can have find help, kind of upload that information. And we also want people to claim their own organization. So what that means is someone would have the capacity to log in and make changes to their own listing. So I have a quick reference guide here on how to do that. I'll send that to Jenny to upload into Basecamp, so you have information on how to claim a program, how to update a program, things like that. And then just a bright spot with the resource database, we were working with a woman who was experiencing homelessness and didn't have a lot of capacity to take notes or retain information. So we were able to send information on resources directly to her phone. So she had them, and there's a map on there that can tell her how to walk places or take the bus, all of that. So again, technology is really helpful. This is just a screenshot of our mobile app. The app is free for Apple and Android. We really recommend all professionals have this and then share it with families too, so that everybody has the resources at the tips of their fingers. It works exactly like the website. You start with the zip code, you search for what you need, and then you see the program cards. We can also include a search bar or a linked icon on any website. Like I know that Wichita School District has this on there, Department of Health and Environment, DCF. So you'll probably see this on different websites. It's a really quick way for people to connect with 1-800-Children. I have the little text code I can send anyone, for your website. So let me know. We also have social media posts available if you want to share about 1-800-Children. We have pre-made Instagram, Facebook posts that I can send to you. We have a lot of outreach materials available. Most of them are available for free. You can order them. I'll show you how to order them in a minute. But this is our family outreach card. It's not really that big in person, but this is the front and back of it. So just information on how to reach us. We have magnets, hand sanitizers, pens, a whole bunch of different things. So here is our order form. You can either scan the QR code right now, or you will have these slides, and this is a live link that you can get to our website to order any materials. There's parent tip cards, there's guides for reporting abuse and neglect, all kinds of stuff on there. And most of it is available for free, and shipping is also free. And then I just want to put in a plug for April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Hopefully you're seeing the pinwheels pop up all over your community. This is a great month for us to celebrate all the important work that happens across Kansas to support families and children. If you want any information, we have a toolkit. We have a calendar of events. We have all kinds of resources at the link here on our website. We are kind of running low on pinwheel stock. So if you're wanting to order any of that, just check out the order form. And then here is my contact information. I'll put it in the chat as well. And I know Adrienne Ralston was unable to join us today. She was going to talk about some of KCSL's other programs. So I'll just give a little quick blurb on those. So we have a training department. They are awesome. And they offer a lot of online trainings. I think most of them are no cost. And they are on all kinds of topics related to preventing child abuse and neglect, supporting families, adverse childhood experiences, the HOPE model, so really trying to increase positive childhood experiences. And so there's a lot of great information on our website. There's schedules on the website. And I will send Jenny a little one-page handout on training. That way you can have access to all of that. And then we also have online support groups for families that are free. So we have groups for moms. We have groups for caregivers of special needs children. And then we have groups for kinship. So people, raising children who are not their own children. So they're wonderful, wonderful support groups. I believe most of them meet in the evening time. They're accessed over Zoom. And it's just really neat to be able to bring people from across the state together who may have similar life stories and can get support from one another. So I will also share that information with Jenny to share with all of you. And then KCSL has different programs kind of depending where you are in the state. We have Healthy Families, we have Head Start, all of that. So I will send our list of office locations around the state and then what service every office has. So that way you kind of understand what we provide around the state. So that's all I have. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Michelle, there are a couple of questions in here. The first
Okay.
one, do you have interpreters available for non-English speaking families?
We do. Thank you. That's a great question. I forgot to mention that. We use a language line, so we have a translation service available. One of our staff members is bilingual in Spanish and English. So she does take all Spanish calls like during the day. And then even in the evenings, our phone connector, they just know to send all Spanish calls to her. But for all other languages, we do have a language line service available.
Another question is, and I assume this has to do with the call line too, is do you refer or have parents call Tiny K and or early childhood programs if it could be helpful to the parents?
Absolutely. Yes, we do for sure. We refer to those programs and many, many others. And we're actually working to make sure that all of the Tiny K programs are updated in 1-800-Children. We have the new brochure. And so we're kind of cross-checking all that information to make sure it's up to date.
I had a question about that one, Michelle. I did a quick search for Northeast Kansas and a couple of things. So if I put in my program name, it comes up, but that means people have to know who I am and specifically looking. But if I do a zip code search, it's not coming up. The only one that's
Okay,
coming up is the FIT program. And I just didn't know how, is that something you guys update, or how do we get
that's
programs?
a great question. If you'll email me about your specific program, we'll make sure that that's kind of rectified. One thing we're working on is like making sure keywords are available. So like Tiny K or early childhood or family resource center, because a lot of times people don't know the program name, you know, so we're working on like making sure the search terms are all up to date for each program. But Rachel, if you'll email me about that specific one,
I can
we'll
do that because it was like,
investigate.
if you just put in your zip code of where you live and then you look under early childhood services, then if you scroll down, it just didn't come up in any of the options for like developmental screening or for home visiting programs or anything like that.
Okay, so we just need to make sure it's categorized correctly.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, you guys want to put those in the chat here or email me as well. But we are actively working on those early childhood programs and then the statewide family resource centers.
Yeah, Heather, I think you're on here too. I wonder if it would make sense for Heather to work on some of that as well, just so that all programs are represented during that. I'm not saying that you can't email Michelle, but I was thinking maybe helpful for her to have some sort of consolidated list of all the programs so that they're
Yeah.
all being used.
Yes, this is Heather. I actually just ran into Michelle at a conference recently and we got to connect. And so she and I are going to have some follow-up. I just need to reach back out to her. And so Michelle, I'll be definitely connecting with you. I have a list of keywords that I think we should maybe add, some standard language for folks that don't already have it. And we can kind of, I can work with them to kind of go through our roster of programs and make sure that everything is easy to find.
Do you think,
Okay.
Heather, do you think it's would make sense for each program to email individually or just wait for that to happen?
I mean, we are going to be going through that process really soon. So if they're really concerned, feel free to reach out to Michelle. But I will email Michelle after this, Michelle, and I will get connected with her so that we can get that taken care of timely.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Rachel, and thanks, Heather. How might you get in contact with the family support worker for a family?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We wouldn't reach out to a worker for a family. We don't provide case management services. We don't have releases of information, things like that. We're really resource connectors. We do have some programs within KCSL, like our Family Resource Center in Wichita, that if a family is working with them, then yes, they could reach out to a family support worker. But normally we wouldn't be able to have that kind of information available to us. But a worker is definitely welcome to reach out to us. We are growing in the IRIS network. So we are a part of IRIS in Sedgwick County, you know, making referrals to different agencies back and forth. And we're going to join the other IRIS networks soon. And there is capacity to make referrals within 1-800-CHILDREN if the organization has enabled accepting referrals. But other than that, we wouldn't be able to connect directly with a worker.
How often are the physical addresses of programs updated on the database?
So at least every 6 months. And maybe more often. So ideally, every organization would have a person going in and checking all of that. And that's another thing we're doing with outreach is trying to connect with especially our most utilized resources, making sure they have an agency representative who's monitoring their listing. But otherwise, Find Help is updating it every 6 months.
Okay, and then there's, I'm sure you can see the chat, but there are a few programs who have said in here that they're experiencing the same thing that Rachel was talking about.
Okay, awesome. Well, very helpful. We will keep working on this. So,
Yeah, this is Heather. We'll work on it and we'll let everybody know. I'll send something over the listserv when we're complete. That way everyone can go back in and check their listings. That might be the best way to handle it. So feel free to reach out if you have specific concerns though.
One more question, Michelle. When you do when people call in the ASQ with all the programs having kind of the enterprise, how does that work? Like, are they assigned to something specific, or how does that work?
that's a good question. We don't do a lot of them, like not a lot. So it's not something that we are super, we're not super experts at it yet because we just don't do it as much as like a lot of other places. But we do use the online system. So like a family should be represented in the website with their results and all of that. So they call us, and we have 2 staff who are trained to do ASQs. So they work with the parent or caregiver that sends them, the survey, and then when we get it back, we score it, and then we work with the family for suggestions on activities with the child, and we do a lot of connecting to resources that can help them.
Okay. So just something that you may want to think about process wise or systems. So like for us in Northeast Kansas, we have it on our website. So if you know it's a family who lives in our catchment area, if you refer them to our website, then they can do it there, and then we're connected and can follow up and send them the automatic stuff so that they are connected with an agency in their area. So just a thought to consider
Yeah,
as you
that's awesome.
support them. You can help walk them through if you want to, but if you go to, like, if they live in Northeast Kansas and you fill it out, help them fill it out from our website, then it's kind of in our system. So then if we need to make a referral or whatever. So I don't know how other people work, but just maybe something to think through as you're supporting families.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay. And Erica, you are up.
All right, I'll get ready to share my screen with you guys. Okay. Oh, wait, I didn't share sound. Hold on. Okay. Hopefully the sound works when we get there. All right. So hello, everybody. Thank you for having us here today to talk to you guys about everything. I know you've been sitting for an hour, so if you need a stretch, take a couple of deep breaths. So I appreciate Michelle kind of led us into the conversation that I'm going to have. And I'm going to kind of continue on. Michelle had mentioned that Adrian wasn't able to be here. And so I'm going to just talk a little bit about what they were probably going to cover in addition to what I was planning on going over too. So as we think about, you've heard from Heidi and you heard from Michelle really talking about how to help families locate those services, what services are offered. And so I think that's great because that leads up to the conversation of that kind of support that you can provide families and that work that is towards prevention of child abuse that would cause DCF, Child Protection Services, to have to be involved. So one of the things that we usually like to kind of call out is that the majority of cases that are reported for neglect are due oftentimes related to poverty. And so it's not that a parent is refusing to do something. It is more about that they just don't have the financial stability to be able to do something. And we oftentimes are mistaking poverty for neglect. And so this is just some national statistics that Adrian had put together for a different presentation that I just wanted to kind of call out as we start talking about kind of that support lens. Oops. So I'm not going to go into mandated reporting here. If you guys are interested in doing a mandated reporter training, or getting more information on that shift in perspective, really about supporting families, Adrian and KCSL have a really good training that they do that goes into what mandated reporting looks like as far as in Kansas and how to really support families. So I'm not going to go deep into this. Just know that there are other trainings available through KCSL, and we will get you that link so that you can go there and sign up. And like Michelle said, this is Child Prevention Awareness Month. And so I would, there's a lot of great opportunities this month for that. So as we think of mandated reporting and supporting families, we know that we have to report child abuse and neglect, but how can we help think of that prevention? What can we do to prevent having to call DCF? And really consider what our roles are when working with families. And so again, there's some really great trainings that KCSL has that are about supporting families before they rise to that level of needing to call DCF. And so I just encourage you to go through those. And so the shift in perspective is, I'm trying to think how to say this. So by calling in a report about abuse and neglect, we haven't prevented it. And so we really want to focus on that upstream, that prevention work. And how do mandated reporters not only consider themselves reporters of when something does happen, but how do we really consider us as the supporters and advocates of families to prevent something from happening? And so it's really taking that preventative look. And I think the 1-800-Children's line that you guys just heard about is one of the great ways in Kansas that we are utilizing that. And again, that is not something that happens across the whole United States. I think we are one of, Michelle would know, probably like 15 states that has actually been using something like that. And so it's really trying to figure out how do we continue to connect the people who really can support those families with the services that they need. And having that thought of that there is really no wrong door. If a family comes to us and somebody says, I have been using drugs and I want to get off of drugs, how do we help connect that family with a service if we don't have any concerns that they've been abusing or neglecting their kids? And so it's not only DCF that can make referrals for things that are happening, but it's also our mandated reporters can help continue to support families. And so as we think about poverty, it oftentimes can sometimes unintentionally cause biases. And so those are called implicit biases. And we see a lot of times in child welfare that we accidentally bring these in. We may have judgments that we aren't realizing that happen. And a lot of those are related to when we think of poverty and trying to really distinguish that between poverty or neglect. And so as we think of sometimes a situation where we might be concerned with neglect, sometimes it's good to ask just a few more questions to understand, is there some sort of a barrier that is happening so that a family isn't able to meet that need that is related to poverty, that's related to the financial instability they might have? We see a lot of those things either with not taking kids to medical appointments, dirty laundry, wearing the same clothes over and again. So like some things that, if we can just ask a couple more questions, sometimes we could see, mom can't get this kid to go to the dentist like he needs to because the appointment is so far out because not everybody takes a Medicaid card that is a dentist. And then the day that mom was supposed to be able to take him, work called and said, you need to come in right now. And so is she supposed to not go into work, or is she supposed to take her kid? That potential of losing your job then puts you in a bigger, worse situation. And so sometimes the choices that people have to make don't mean that they don't want to be able to take care of their kids. It just means that sometimes they're having to make difficult choices. And how can we help support them and really build that network around them to be able to meet those needs of their kids so that it doesn't appear as neglect? So the other thing that is really exciting is, so DCF partners with KCSL to do our mandated reporter training. In addition to that, DCF also works closely with KCSL on our family resource centers. And so I am not going to go deep into what a family resource center is, but I'm just going to give you like a really high level information about it. And if you want more information, what I'll do is I will send out a memo that we got that'll give you more information on these. So the Family Resource Centers, or also known as FRCs, are community-based or school-based hubs to support families. And each site is really unique kind of to what they do and what they have. And so this map just shows that we have 10 family resource centers across the state that DCF is assisted with funding through grants in order to get them up and going. And again, this is really just a way to create a hub in a community where if a family is needing to figure out how they can access childcare, counseling, early childhood programs, food banks, health screenings, like of such a variety of things, they can go there and kind of help be that hub for them. Because we oftentimes see again, reports coming in where maybe a family just needed a referral for services coming to DCF's door where there's no abuse or neglect. And I think sometimes people just don't know how to give that to them, or a family doesn't know how to access it. And how can we help those families gaining that knowledge and getting that information, not having to come through a DCF, at least child protection door. And so this is just a way for those families to have something within their community. So again, I can give you more information on those, but that's just a super high level overview of our family resource centers. We also have, starting in July of this year, DCF has used some of their TANF grant funds to be able to try a new approach. And it's called the 2-generation approach. And if you Google 2-gen approach, you will find a link that can explain a lot more about this. And so the thought behind it is really, how do you end that intergenerational poverty by supporting both the child and the parent kind of as a family unit? And so again, this year, what DCF has done is there are 10 organizations that will receive funding. And I've listed those 10 organizations here, and I will send you guys this as well, because each one covers specific counties. So it's not like the Children's Alliance of Boys and Girls Club doesn't cover the entire state of Kansas. They have a specific few counties that they have received funding for. And each one of them has kind of a different approach that they will do with the families that they work with. And the families do not have to be receiving DCF services of any sort. These grants are really to help these community agencies support families so that they don't have to be on DCF assistance. They don't have to come through Child Protection Services for a service referral. It's really about that prevention and helping that family kind of stabilize economic security so that we don't have to have involvement with them. So again, it's really exciting to see that partnering, because DCF is really trying to move out of feeling like we hold all of the things that we need to do in order to support families, and helping trying to give that back to the communities who we know really can do that work that there is. So again, I will send you that so you can read what it is that these services would be doing with those families. Another kind of like support that we have is we have partnered with Beacon Health, and they have a mobile crisis line. So it's also very similar to the 988. So I know that sometimes these numbers can be like, if you call this one, sometimes you'll get routed to that 988 number as well. Just the way they've tried to set it up to really make sure that we're getting it out there. So again, this is really intended to help with some of those mental health or behavioral health crises that are happening, and really try to stop it being immediately calling law enforcement. But how do we have somebody who really can be that mental health behavioral crisis person a phone call away to be able to help that parent or that child resolve whatever's going on? And if they can't resolve it over the phone, then somebody is going to respond in person. And again, the intention is, how do we prevent law enforcement from being the person who's responding to those mental health or behavioral health crises? Because what we see is, if law enforcement responds, they go out there, and the way that they can usually kind of get the situation to resolve is by placing a child in police protective custody. So then we end up with youth who have to go to a temporary foster home for a short period of time due to a mental health or behavioral crisis. And then that kind of just causes all kinds of other things to start happening. Those kids could end up in foster care when really there might have been a better way to handle it. So that is what the mobile crisis line is for. And so we encourage, if you have families, that maybe have children that they sometimes have those things happen, they're not sure what to do. This is a great place for them to be able to reach out to a professional and just be able to talk it through and figure out what they can do over the phone. So to really try to avoid not to have to call the police. All right, so now we're going to move into prevention. Has been, you guys have, as the professionals, you've worked with a family, there's a lot of supports, preventative work you've been doing, but there are times that there is abuse or neglect that happens to kids, and those reports have to be called in. And so that means then DCF, the child protection side, is going to be going out and meeting and working with that family. So we have a certain type of practice that how we work with families, and it's called our Kansas practice model, or KPM is what you might hear people refer to it as. So I'm going to play you a really quick video that just it does a much better job of explaining how we work with families after we get that report. So this is how we would be engaging with people if we've received that report of abuse or neglect.
At the Kansas Department for Children and Families, we believe working alongside families and communities is the best way to achieve our mission of strengthening families and assuring children are safe. We've strived to develop a way of doing our work that includes and honors the voice of families and children that partners with the strengths of our communities. Using a family-centered approach, we strive to work alongside families, their natural supports, and the community in which they live to improve safety and overall family well-being. Practitioners engage with families to identify together what supports may help them reach their goals as a family. What we believe: every person has the capacity to progress, succeed, grow, and to do well in life. We care about each other and the people we serve. Each person is the expert of their lives and has a voice, choices, needs, strengths, and life stories. We honor and respect the voice of the people we serve. Communities are valuable for building stronger networks to help families be together safely and support the well-being of all family members. Practitioners work with families to expand their communities because communities bring strength through relationships and resources. One of the most critical goals is to establish and support every family member feeling safe and secure. There are a lot of different ways to achieve safety and stability, and the solution is different for every family. If we focus on identifying and meeting the goals and needs of parents and caregivers, they will be better able to meet the needs of their children. Practitioners help families access needed supports to meet their own goals. Nothing about you without you. We believe Kansans have the capacity to thrive and do well in life. We will continue to walk alongside with respect for the families we serve through the challenges they face.
All right, so I'm not going to go over the practice model again because you saw that. And so one of the things I still always like to kind of call out whenever I'm talking to people who are mandated reporters is just a little bit of information about what is important to provide us, because we still see about 60% of our reports we receive via the online system not giving sufficient information, and we have to then try to reach back out. So if you have somebody from DCF reach back out about a report you made, it's just because sometimes you don't realize all the information that we need. And so this just can kind of help you as you go forward. So we really like to know what the impact is to that child. So what is the negative impact that you have seen because of the abuse or neglect that's happened? Who is it? What are those caregivers' actions or inactions? When did it happen? Where did it happen? So again, really thinking of almost more detail for us helps us make a better decision up front to know whether or not we really need to be engaging with that family. So one of the biggest things is in child welfare, we have not always tried to gather balanced information. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, but one of the ways that we really think of trying to have balanced information is a few different types of ways that we might ask questions. So you might see us, and this is as you're a reporter or our via online has now changed. And so the questions are different. So there's going to be scaling questions that really can help us understand more about how worried you really are about the situation that's happening. We'll be asking about what your worries are. We'll be asking about the support that you and your agency have provided, or maybe if you know there's outside support, whether professional or just kind of their network that they have. What has been going well with the family? Had there been times that something has happened in the past, and what did they do that was successful at that time? What are your best hopes for the family? And that's kind of a weird question that kind of gets people sometimes, but really it is, it can help us kind of know, you know, what it is that you think, what you want to see for that family and where you'd like to have them go. If you have ideas of what next steps could be, again, that helps us just know as we start working with the family, what things you've identified might be helpful for them. And then what is your worst fear if there's no DCF intervention? Kind of what is it you're really worried is going to happen if nobody goes out to respond? So these are things that you might be seeing that are, again, about us trying to gather more balanced information than only taking down information about what is it that's bad that has been happening that has you calling. So once a report is made, we have our Protection Report Center will screen it in or screen it out. And if there's not enough information and we need more information, we might do a preliminary inquiry. And again, I would make sure, please respond to those and answer the question the best that you can. And I know that we've changed in how we ask questions. And so it's, we see a lot of people are kind of like hesitant to answer our questions or maybe push back, or we've even seen people kind of angry at the questions that we ask. And again, it is really us trying to make sure we are making the best decision, because we know as soon as DCF gets involved, that completely changes the family's life trajectory from then on. It is something that sticks with them forever. So we want to make sure that we really are getting the right information to know that this is a family we really should be going out and working with. And so that's why we are asking all of those questions. And we know for years we have been telling people, you suspect abuse or neglect, just make a report. And what we've seen is that's put us in a situation where we're going out on things that aren't abuse or neglect. And so it's okay to ask an additional question. If maybe you truly don't know, well, is this really abuse or neglect? I don't know if I should suspect it or not. Like, so if I asked one more question, could that help provide clarity to me? And so it's okay to ask that additional question if you still need clarity to know, okay, now I suspect. And we get a lot of things that are about a child has an injury. That doesn't mean that it's abuse. And so then we're struggling to figure out, okay, well, they have a black eye, but no one asked any additional questions. And our staff go out and they tried to play around with mascara for the first time, and it just made their eye look black, and literally the child could wipe it off their face while DCF is out there. How do we ask additional questions so that we don't go out on things like that when we really have some situations that we need to be working with? So again, just it's okay to ask an additional question is what I always like to say. So initial assessment determination. So if we determine we need to go out with the family, then we are going to have a response time of either a same day, a 72-hour, or 7 working days. So our same day and 72-hour are going to be our abuse or neglect cases. Those 7 working days are cases where it's just a service only, that there's no abuse or neglect. But it's just somebody saying that a person might need a service referral, or there's a child behavior problem. There's a parent who's using drugs, but the kids are fine. And so at DCF, what we see is 1 in 3 of the families we engage with is about a non-abuse neglect. There's no abuse or neglect. It's just a service referral. So that's again why we're trying to encourage some of that prevention and giving back to the communities that it's okay for you to, make a referral or do something and not need to call DCF if there's not that abuse or neglect, or if it might just be poverty related. So again, really thinking of that 1 in 3 families DCF interacts with is only about a service referral that we are needing to do, not about abuse or neglect. So there's a lot of different factors that we're going to consider as we are making our assessment. So these are them, not going to go over them in great detail, but just kind of helps things that we're also looking at besides the information you have given us to see if we should be assigning that. So when the worker goes out, or we call them child protection specialists. So when our child protection specialists go out, they're going to be doing a lot of different assessments with the family. They could make service referrals. They're going to be making a finding decision. If there are safety concerns, they're really going to be looking at building safety with the family. So not writing out a safety plan prior to getting there, but really talking to that family about what really can help build safety for them. Just providing support. And I'm going to go a little bit more into some of those others in a second. So we will be having mapping conversations with the family. And so if anybody is familiar with kind of like signs of safety, this is where this comes in. So it's really in child welfare, we've always stayed over here in the worries. We're really good about talking about the worries and the bad things that happen. And so we'll be talking to reporters. This is the way that we're having conversation with you as well. We want to know about the worries, but we want to know about what's working well, and we want to know what needs to happen next. And so we're going to be asking questions kind of within those 3 columns in order to figure out how to build safety with the families. So the middle column is one of those, and again, within child welfare, we haven't done a good job of trying to be in the middle column. And the middle column is something that it's really about getting that balanced information. And in child welfare, with using our mapping, we've always really stayed in that left-hand side. And that left-hand side, we always use that as kind of the biggest predictor for, what has happened in the past is going to continue to be the predictor for the future. So really, we always think of, okay, well, all these bad things that happened in the past, and now we have this new report. Well, that means that, this bad thing's going to happen. But how do we move into the middle column and think of, well, all these good things that have happened, all these times the family figured out how to create safety for their family or build safety. How do we actually look at those? And that's really what we're trying to work on, is asking those questions of, well, when was the last time something happened and how did you handle it? What did you do? And pull those type of things out of what has the family been able to do? Because more than likely, this isn't the first time. And we know that families oftentimes have the capacity to be able to do things. And so again, this is really just about how do we help engage that family and consider them really the experts of their lives to be able to help build the best plan for them and not everything be like a cookie cutter plan. It does not mean that we're minimizing the harm or that safety worry. We definitely should still be looking at that. That is what we're always trying to figure out. How do we kind of move past that? But we have to also acknowledge the things that the family might be doing good or that their network might be there as we're making those decisions. So the nothing about you without you, there's a lot of different tools that we will be using when we really think of how are we working in that mindset of nothing about you without you. We really want to make sure that we're providing clarity to the family so that they completely understand what our concerns are, whether that be as we verbally said, or the things that they will receive in writing, and also that transparency, so that we're not going behind closed doors and making decisions without them. We really are engaging with them and bringing them into all conversations that we are having with them. And it's just a variety of different ways to do that. So when we talk about, again, safety and risk are the 2 biggest things that at DCF we're always really trying to look at. So we have immediate safety scales. And so this is something that as reporters, we would be asking you about immediate safety. And so this is something we do with the child, with the parent, with the reporter, with others who might be involved, to ask them questions about how they feel like the safety is. I don't have the question right here in front of me, or I would tell you what it is, the question that we ask as far as the scaling. But here's just different indicators. So there's certain factors that might increase the danger to a child, and then there's certain factors that might increase the safety of a child. And so this just helps people kind of have a more visual idea of where are we at when we're thinking of the safety of that child. Then we have what we call our assessment map. This is just information that we have as far as like how we may make a decision. So kind of putting everything together in one place. And then we have our service decisions. So again, the majority of the referrals that we probably do are community referrals. So we have a lot of times we get cases, they are just for community referrals. We probably don't even know them all. I think we probably use the 1-800-Children's to help us even find all the services that a family might be able to access. And then we have our family preservation services. So in order to make a referral to family preservation services, DCF must have an open case, and that child must be at risk for removal. And so there must be a high level kind of that safety concern. So kind of when we think about that immediate safety, and then we have a lasting safety scale, which is our risk scale, we kind of are seeing that there's something there that we need to try to put services in place to alleviate what is happening. And again, those are evidence-based, and these are family first. I did the wrong one. And so they're 24-hour availability for families in crisis, ongoing intervention. And so it's all across Kansas. And so no matter where they are, somebody can get the family preservation services. Family first prevention services are unique to each county. And so I will send you guys a link so you can see them. They also are one though that require a DCF referral to be open. And they're evidence-based, and they're focused very much on either mental health, substance use disorder, parent skill building, or kinship navigation. And so kinship navigation is one I like to call out because it is across the entire state. And what it is for maybe a grandparent, an aunt, someone else in the family has been caring for a child for months or even years, and they don't technically have legal guardianship. And now they're starting to face barriers where, well, they can't enroll them in school. They can't do something because they don't have that legal paperwork. The Kinship Navigator program can help figure out how can we give that child, how can we give that caregiver guardianship of some sort and work with them. So if you have families you're working with like that, that is definitely something to contact DCF if they can't get the service themselves through an attorney or someone else, like maybe they financially can't afford an attorney. What can DCF do to assist in getting that kinship navigation? And so you could call and very even specifically say, this family, we need a kinship navigator. I think it's KinTech now to help this family. I already did that one. Then we also have team decision-making. And so team decision-making, if you ever are asked to join a team decision-making meeting, or you hear it might be called a TDM, then please join. What those are is they are a meeting that is facilitated by a person who has gone through days worth of training in order to be able to come up with the best solution to the serious immediate and safety threat of that family. And so it brings together the caregiver, DCF, professionals involved, the family's network, whoever might be supports to them. And they kind of sit in a room together to really talk about what are the safety concerns that DCF has and that are making, that are kind of moved the needle to thinking that child needs to be separated from their caregiver. And so this meeting, I'm just going to go to the next one. So it's really intended to bring everybody together to get the best, the best thing that we can do for that child, knowing that the families really are the experts. And so it's not that DCF has gone and made this decision behind the family's back. We are bringing it to them and we are having the conversation with them. And so everybody is on the same page and everybody is aware of what's happening. And so we would love to see that TDMs are done on every case that needs a removal. But we know that that can't always happen because we do have like those police protective custody cases. They have to move fast. And sometimes the courts don't kind of give us that break to be able to do that. But these should be happening if we have serious concerns. We think that a child needs removed. The other thing that DCF has been really working with court partners on and judges is to really think about asking these 4 questions before we would remove a child from the home. So what can we do to remove the danger instead of the child? What can someone the child or family knows move into the home to remove the danger? Can the caregiver and the child go with the relative or family friend, or could the child temporarily move to live with someone else? And so I think that is just, there's a lot of questions that we want to kind of ask before we decide to take that huge step to think that a child needs to go into foster care. And we also really try to look at relatives. If they do have to go into foster care, thinking of who are the relatives or the already connected people to that family that that child could go stay with. All right, so I rushed through so much, and there's so much more I could say, but so again, here's my contact information if you guys have additional questions. Otherwise, I think that is all I have, and so I don't know if there's questions. So I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you, Erica. Great job. I haven't seen any questions come through just yet. I'll give it just a second in case anybody thinks of something they would like to ask. Okay, well, like Erica said, you know, she'll provide her contact information if you think of something following this meeting that you would like a little extra clarification about, you can reach directly out to her. And Tammy, we have about 20 minutes left, so I'm gonna let you go.
Hello. As you know, I'm Tammy Walleen, Kansas In-Service Training System. I work with Jenny and the KITS team. We're really, when we were thinking about planning resources and what this looks like, we just wanted to do a really short recap and kind of end with feedback from families. If you remember, when we started this process, we really started with diving into coaching families around resources and doing resources with families rather than leaning into two families. Or doing for families. And so one way we can really help navigate whether we're useful is getting feedback from families. We definitely want at every coaching conversation that you are checking in with families, which I know you are, and making sure that the way you're providing support is helpful. I know sometimes your local programs absolutely have different ways that they're gathering feedback from families and trying to really adjust programs and services to meet the overall family needs. So what we brought today is something that affects all of you across the state. And it is which I hope you have heard of, I know you have, the Family Outcomes Survey, right? And what is the overall purpose of our Family Outcome Survey? Really has to do with what we all want, which is improving those outcomes for children and families. We know that that's our overall goal. So where does this survey fit in? And the survey's intent is to evaluate that effectiveness of our EVI services so that our programs can adjust to better meet the needs of all families. So it does play an integral part. Across the state, we've had some struggling trying to get it in and get enough family surveys in from all of the programs to have strong feedback. And so that's kind of why this is just a gentle awareness, not necessarily a training of what it is, but really hoping that you as family service coordinators just understand your role within the survey, even though that might look different across programs. So why is this so important? What this survey is trying to measure is to really ask every family about those experiences, the experience of families as a result of EI services. Also determining the helpfulness, the usefulness of the program as a whole for federal reporting, which means the whole state reports out on our family survey. And it also at a program level helps leadership teams and U.S. service coordinators figure out where those future improvements need to be for the families that are receiving early intervention services. So when we think of the federal reporting, there's three major, it's called indicator 4, because they all have to have an indicator, right? And this is really the percentage of families that are reporting how has EI helped their family. And it really is three major categories. It has to do with how well does the family know and understand their rights? How effectively can they communicate their child's needs? And how can they, as the caregiver, help their child grow and learn? What they're really trying to measure is that level of where does our state need to adjust and where do our programs need to adjust so that we are effective. We are providing effective services. When we think of the state target, every program gets an annual identification of where your program is. And then this in front of you is where each of these that we want at minimum program-wide. So this is the statewide determinations, what we're looking for in each of those areas. That's our target, right? So that really gets us to this piece. So while this looks different in each program, in that some of your programs are using an electronic format, some of you are using a paper format. The questions are the same. The survey itself, it looks the same, but the format it's given in does vary from program to program. Some of the pieces is that we need to notice is that additionally this past year, race and ethnicity was also added to the survey. It was updated because we know it's vital that ensuring representation from all of our families is going to be really important. And that additional piece really helps give us a better understanding of the demographic of who is turning our surveys in, and so that we can make better informed next steps. Something that is consistent to support as an FSC with the family surveys is really ensuring that on your caseload for your families, regardless of whether you're giving it or the program's getting it, that survey is given to each family at the 6-month review, the first 6 months of services or transition, whichever comes first. Ensuring that the family is receiving the survey in their primary language. And so if you're not directly giving that to the family, just making sure the database and those that are sending out the survey have updated contact information and that language piece is in there. Also, just being well informed of the survey so that if families have questions, if families want to know more about it, that you feel like you have some talking points to explain why it's important, and ensuring that families know that this is a confidential process and that their information and responses will not come back to them, but we're really looking at that overall feedback. So if you haven't seen the survey because your program doesn't have you send it out, this is in general what it looks like. It's a front and back piece that just kind of rates from completely to not at all. You can see that it is 2 pages. And so each section has a variety of questions to get more information on what that means. Like I said, we're not going to go into this in depth, but we are going to look at some of those overall pieces. So as we finish up this series and we think about resource-based coaching, it's how we are supporting families is showing up in our resources. And so really thinking about how are you as an FSC supporting families and improving those outcomes? Where are you in supporting, identifying what the family wants to work on, supporting through those resources, connecting with families' resources, especially around their rights? So does anyone have any thoughts that they can dump in the chat since we have a little of time about how you can use resource-based coaching in supporting families in their rights? or contacting families together as they feel like they need? What does that look like? Do you have any good questions or ways that you support families around knowing their rights when you're connecting them to resources? Heather, will you pop in the link to all of the survey, the languages in the survey that's offered? There is quite a few.
Yes, I'll find that.
So when I'm thinking about family surveys and parents' rights, I think it's just helping them navigate that system, asking them what they already know, what they would like to try. Do they have, what informal supports do they feel they really need to lean into of their own support system as they go through this? It really shows up when we're doing some of those initial IFSPs and evaluation by just asking, is there anyone else you want present? In transition, making sure that those are there. And if additional supports are needed, how do you access families together? What are their thoughts around that? And coaching them through all of those pieces that can feel overwhelming, and they can feel like they have a plan that they can utilize and implement as they see fit. The next section is really around communicating your child's needs. So if we look closely at number 8, it really talks about one of the questions the survey directly asked them is how do they feel they were connected to other services and people that can help their child and family. So some of the work that you're doing around resources directly shows up on supporting families and gathering feedback in the family survey. So of kind of what we've talked about this week or this past few months, what are some of the resources that you've utilized that you're excited to connect families with? Is there any that we didn't talk about that in the future you would like more information on? Either way. Some that is there any that really pop out that you remember that we talked about that you thought, yes, I'm bringing that a family? Or are there any that you wish we would have went over that we didn't do in this series?
Amy, I don't know if there's a specific one. I need to probably go back and try again. I do feel like some of the ones that have shared on here, they sound good, but it doesn't really pan out the way that it sounds. And so I don't know. I mean, we all have our things, but I'm like, sometimes when it comes out and says, oh yeah, that we offer all this stuff, it sounds great, but then it is a lot to try and access, and then we don't get anywhere. And then families get really frustrated because it's like, well, and we get frustrated by bringing it up when we don't see anyone really being able to access it. And so I don't know. I don't always know what to do with that, but in theory, it's good, but I don't know that they're really actually being accessed or utilized. And so sometimes that's a little frustrating, and I don't know what to do with that information, except sometimes then I don't know how helpful it is to hear it every year, but then to still not be able to access it. So I don't know. Yeah. And just different things, right? Like, so, and sometimes I think our experiences are different. Like we have called certain people before and asked for this, and they were like, we don't offer that. but then I can talk to another program and they're like, oh, our people help do that all the time. So
Yep.
I don't know if it depends on regions and like staff availability, but then that's frustrating because that's not a blanket support to all families.
Yep.
Um,
And I think, and recognizing that not all families get the same responses as resources as others. And so I think implementing resources, it's imperative that we're working closely with families and getting that feedback, what's working and what's not working. And yes, as programs reaching out, trying to support better, connect, and do that high level work to get that resource more effective for families. And in the moment, really focusing on what is working for the family and what isn't, and helping them navigate that. I think that's why it's so important that the FSCs are so versed in things like resource-based coaching, because I think you're right, Rachel. Any resource for any family could work extremely different than the next resource. So I think just ongoing, so I also hear just ongoing support around how do you navigate resources when they're not working?
Yeah, because at some point, it's just not a resource.
Right.
If it's not paying, if it's not helping out or connecting. And so then, yeah. So just something to think about.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And the reality of using resources, they're formal, they don't always work individualized to the level that we would hope them to, and we need them to. So yes, other ones, postpartum depression, yes. Medicaid, yes. These are some good, the transition book, childcare subs, yes. There's always more resources we could, so that helps give some more insight and what might be helpful in the future. This is the other section of helping your child learn. And again, just examples of what families are being asked, which helps you know better the expectation of the roles, which helps better share. So in general, when we're thinking of that family survey, we're just really wanting to ensure families have access to the survey in the primary language. And Heather dropped those in the chat. Always asking if there's more, reaching out. There we go. The additional languages, because that's something they're kind of evolving, working on, is adding more languages and expanding the languages. So if one pops up that you don't see there, reach out to the KDHE email so that they can better support. And just ensuring families are reading it, helping them understand why it's important, and supporting as needed as we keep seeing an increase in the number of surveys that we complete around the state. We have 2 more minutes. Is there anything else in the last 2 minutes that would be helpful? Or Jenny, is there housekeeping things that need to be shared?
Yeah, I think I've said it lots of times, but, and it's come in email too, but just so you know, the way the process works for certificates following this is I will reach out to each of the coordinators and they will let me know who attended all 3 sessions live, and then the certificates will be given back to the coordinators to distribute. Definitely appreciate all the feedback today. That only helps us to try to make sure that we're giving you presentations and trainings that are supportive and helpful to the work that's being done in the field. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me via email, or you can call me anyway, and I'd be happy to help. But other than that, I definitely appreciate you participating and coming to the training, and I look forward to seeing the feedback that we get from the surveys that I'll send out following this training. Thank you and have a great day.